Chicago rapper Lil Durk.
Lil Durk targeted a rival rapper
in a murder-for-hire plot back in 2022.
Is in the hospital tonight after being attacked in federal prison.
Right now, Lil Durk is locked up in Florida's notorious Broward County Jail, a facility that's infamous for its harsh conditions and high-profile inmates like YNW Melly, who's been there for over 5 years. Every corner of this jail is under constant surveillance, but that doesn't make it safer. The guards have a reputation for being brutal, with reports of them beating inmates and even allowing some to starve to death. The jail's conditions are bad enough, but some sections are significantly worse. And unfortunately for Lil Durk, he's reportedly in one of the harshest areas imaginable. The details about his current situation paint a disturbing picture, leaving fans wondering how he's coping in such an environment. On October 25th, Lil Durk was arrested and sent to Broward County Jail while awaiting transfer to U.S. Marshals custody. There's no clear timeline for his transfer, meaning he could be stuck there for a while. Adding to his misfortune, he's being held without bond, so there's no hope of temporary release anytime soon. What's even more striking is that his alleged crimes didn't occur in Florida. It's just where he happened to be arrested. Broward County Jail is infamous for its dire conditions, and it's estimated that nearly half of the inmates suffer from mental health issues due to the harsh environment. This isn't surprising when you hear about the overcrowding, abuse allegations, and intense stress inside the facility. While the exact part of the jail where Lil Durk is being held hasn't been confirmed, some digging suggests it's one of the most brutal sections. Broward County Jail is Florida's main detention center, notorious for housing some of the state's most infamous criminals. It's where YNW Melly has been held for years, and there's a strong possibility that Lil Durk is being housed in the same part of the jail. Situated in the heart of Broward County, the facility is massive. So large, in fact, that it's been divided into 4 distinct sections to manage its population. The main jail is the most high-profile and heavily secured section, designed to hold inmates who are considered the most dangerous or notorious. This is where YNW Melly is located, so it's highly likely Lil Durk is in the same maximum security area. Unlike some facilities that offer privileges to high-profile inmates, Broward County doesn't have a VIP unit, meaning Durk likely won't receive any special treatment. Inmates are classified based on the severity of their crimes, which determines the level of security they're subjected to. For those in the main jail, security is at its highest level. The 8-story facility is equipped with thousands of surveillance cameras, keeping watch on every inch of the prison. Yet, despite this extensive monitoring, Broward County Jail has been under intense scrutiny for the alleged mistreatment of its inmates. Numerous reports have surfaced accusing prison guards of abusive behavior, including physical beatings and other harsh treatment. Unfortunately, due to Florida law, video footage from inside the facility is not accessible to the public, which makes it nearly impossible to verify these allegations. Still, countless former inmates have spoken out about the conditions, and the testimonies paint a grim picture of life behind those walls. Let's just say, it's far from what anyone would consider humane. Broward County Jail has its fair share of unsettling tales, especially when it comes to its treatment of mentally ill inmates. Officially, the facility claims to be revolutionizing mental health support, but reports from former inmates and advocates paint a starkly different picture. For Lil Durk's sake, let's hope he isn't placed on suicide watch or ends up experiencing a mental health crisis, because the so-called support system inside doesn't appear to live up to the hype. When inmates are deemed a suicide risk, they're often sent to solitary confinement, a decision that has drawn severe criticism for its lack of empathy and effectiveness. One particularly harrowing story involves an inmate who spent 112 consecutive days in solitary without any mental health check-ins. The situation reached a horrifying peak when he mutilated himself in an act of desperation. Without going into graphic detail, let's just say that injury left him unable to relieve himself properly ever again. Solitary confinement is clearly a place no one wants to end up, and Durk would do well to avoid it at all costs. But mental health crises aren't the only challenge at Broward County Jail. Life for the so-called average inmate is far from humane. Former inmates have shared their experiences online, and it's clear this isn't a place anyone wants to be. One particularly sarcastic Yelp review labeled the jail a 5-star experience, but quickly devolved into a bleak description of the conditions. As your stay progresses, I suggest you forget about modesty, the review quipped. Any expectation of privacy or personal space is completely non-existent here. The review went on to describe the behavior of fellow inmates. Your roommates, in my case Jamal and Bo Vance, will engage in all kinds of disturbing acts, whether it's in front of you, involving you, or even on you. It only gets worse. The grim humor in such accounts underscores just how dehumanizing the environment can be. Another commenter on Reddit explored what life might have been like for YNW Melly, who has spent over 5 years in the facility. The responses were just as chilling, revealing stories of survival tactics and the harsh realities of day-to-day life in one of Florida's most infamous jails. One user shared some insight into YNW Melly's time in Broward County Jail, claiming he initially started in the general population before being moved to protective custody. Here's what they had to say. I just got out from a year sentence there. Broward has 4 jails, 3 in Pompano right next to each other, and the main jail in Fort Lauderdale. The user continued, giving a grim description of the main jail. Main jail is where they do booking and keep higher profile serious cases. He's in the main jail on the 8th floor. He used to be in Gen Pop, but they switched him to PC. Adding to the bleak picture, the commenter revealed how Melly's time in protective custody seemed far from secure or comfortable. My bunkie was in the dorm with him while he was in Gen Pop. He's in PC now though, and apparently they're treating him real bad. No phone calls, no TV. Jail sucks. It's not a good time, they explained. These details give a chilling glimpse into what Lil Durk might be enduring now or could face in the near future. It's worth noting that Melly was stuck in Broward County Jail for 5 long years while awaiting trial, enduring the harsh conditions and alleged mistreatment during that time. With 21 inmate deaths reported at the jail in recent years, it's no exaggeration to say the environment is unforgiving. If Lil Durk's case follows a similar timeline, he might be in for a prolonged and challenging ordeal. The denial of Lil Durk's bond further underscores the severity of the charges he's facing. Authorities have made it clear they consider him a high-risk individual, and his legal troubles are far from minor. It's been reported that Durk's current charges stem from an alleged attempt to seek revenge for King Von's death. And it's not just Durk who's under scrutiny. Others have been implicated in the case as well. The authorities are taking this case seriously and have gone after Lil Durk's entire crew. Along with Durk, 5 other associates have been arrested, all facing similar charges. These individuals are reportedly linked to Durk's rap collective, OTF, which stands for Only the Family. While Lil Durk has repeatedly denied claims that OTF is a gang, law enforcement seems to think otherwise, and this investigation is framing the group as an organized criminal operation. Prosecutors allege that the group planned and executed a targeted shooting that took place on August 26th. According to the indictment, the alleged motive was revenge against Quando Rondo, who was directly tied to King Von's tragic death. Prosecutors claim that Durk and his associates set their sights on Rondo as retaliation, and their actions were meticulously planned. The court documents reveal some startling details. Allegedly, the group used a credit card registered to an OTF member to purchase plane tickets to Los Angeles. Prosecutors are arguing that the entire purpose of the trip was to locate Quando Rondo. Once in LA, the indictment states that one of the members secured a hotel room for the group, where they allegedly strategized the next moves. This same individual is accused of supplying firearms to the group, ensuring they were armed and ready to carry out their plans. Things escalated when the group reportedly rented 2 cars to track Quando Rondo and his cousin. The prosecutors claimed that at some point, Rondo and his cousin stopped at a gas station, a moment the alleged pursuers saw as their chance to strike. The group reportedly exited the vehicle and opened fire on Rondo and his cousin. Miraculously, Quando Rondo escaped the ambush without any injuries, but his cousin tragically lost his life in the attack. Adding another layer of chilling detail, prosecutors alleged that after the shooting, the group regrouped at a nearby restaurant. There, they reportedly discussed payment for the hit, tying up the financial aspect of the plan. That same day, plane tickets were purchased for the group to return to Chicago, painting a picture of a carefully coordinated plan. From the prosecution's perspective, this adds to a growing pile of evidence that could strengthen their case. While Quando Rondo survived the ambush, it's clear that the incident left him deeply shaken. Not long after the shooting, a video surfaced showing Quando talking to the police at the scene. His demeanor in the footage tells the story of someone who's completely overwhelmed by the chaos. You can see him frantically waving his arms, clearly distressed by what had just happened. The most heart-wrenching moment in the video comes when Quando witnesses the authorities pulling his cousin's lifeless body from the car. At that point, he screams in anguish, a sound that speaks volumes about the emotional toll of the tragedy. Quando's cousin, Lil Pab, seems to have tragically lost his life simply because he happened to be with Quando at the time of the attack. The shooting took place back in 2022, but just last month, Quando sat down for an interview where he opened up about Pab's death and the lasting impact it has had on him. Even years later, the trauma of the incident clearly weighs heavily on him. But sadly, this wasn't the first time Quando found himself in the crosshairs following King Von's death. In 2021, just a year after Von's passing, Quando was the target of another shooting in Georgia. The attack occurred after he finished a club performance. As he and his entourage were leaving the venue, someone opened fire on their group. Once again, Quando emerged unscathed, but one of his friends wasn't so lucky. The friend was hit, taking a bullet through the hand. Despite an investigation, authorities were unable to determine who was responsible for the shooting. However, given the timing and circumstances, many speculated that it was retaliation for King Von's death. While it remains unclear whether that particular incident was linked to Lil Durk, the situation surrounding Lil Pab's murder likely was. The details emerging from Durk's arrest paint a chilling picture of calculated vengeance. The online reaction to these events has also been telling. On Reddit, users have weighed in on the circumstances surrounding Lil Pab's death. One user commented, "It's especially sad because 1, it was self-defense, and 2, Quando isn't even the one who killed Von. It was his associate. Quando gets blamed just for being the famous one associated with the shooter." They make a good point. Quando seems to be catching most of the backlash for King Von's death, even though he wasn't the one who pulled the trigger. However, not everyone agrees he's innocent in the court of public opinion. Another user commented, "Quando repeatedly dissed Von since then, and his people even posted Von's dead body online. I have zero sympathy for him." Regardless of who's at fault, the one thing that's clear is that Durk allegedly wants Quando gone. What's truly heartbreaking about this entire situation is that before all this beef unfolded, Quando once looked up to Durk and even referred to him as an older brother. In 2021, Quando gave an interview with Angela Yee where he shed light on his relationship with both Durk and Von. And let's just say, his comments caught a lot of people off guard. He started by talking about how he and Durk used to be on good terms, something that's nearly impossible to imagine now. Shockingly, they even collaborated on a track before the King Von tragedy set everything spiraling. Quando went on to discuss what happened the night Von died. Although he refused to address Durk by name, he referred to him as Big Bro, which shows the kind of respect he once had for him. From Quando's side, it seemed like he had no desire to escalate things into a full-blown feud. He even explained how, despite being charged by his own circle for features, Lil Durk never once asked him for money. That kind of gesture clearly left a lasting impression on Quando, who spoke about Durk with a tone of admiration during the interview. After all, can Quando really be blamed for what happened to King Von? The infamous incident that led to Von's tragic death was even captured on CCTV, and the footage painted a clearer picture of the chaos that night. According to reports, Quando's friend, Lil Tim, jumped in to defend him, ultimately shooting Von in the process. Here's how the official story goes. Quando was reportedly napping in a car parked outside the club while waiting for a friend who was still inside. Lil Tim, whose real name is Timothy Leaks, was supposedly keeping watch over Quando while he slept. Things took a turn when Quando woke up and left the vehicle. right as Von and his crew arrived on the scene, allegedly looking for trouble. A confrontation erupted, and as fists started flying, Lil Tim reacted to protect his friend. Seeing Quando under attack, Tim pulled out a firearm and shot Von, leading to his untimely death. Following the incident, Lil Tim was arrested and charged with murder. But here's the twist. All charges against him were eventually dropped. That decision came as a shock to many, with critics arguing that at least a manslaughter charge was warranted. Von's family was understandably devastated, and his ex-girlfriend took to Twitter, venting her frustration with the justice system. She wrote, "Because the police said Tim ain't killing the police, Lil Tim was released." Even though Quando appears to have been a victim of an unexpected assault that night, the situation has left him permanently scarred. For years, Von's associates and fans have directed their anger at Quando, holding him responsible for what happened. Since Von's death, there have been 2 known attempts on Quando's life. Von and Lil Durk shared a strong bond, with Durk often acting as both a mentor and an older brother figure to him. It's no surprise that Lil Durk would hold a grudge against Quando, but what shocked many was just how far he's allegedly willing to go for revenge. In an April interview with No Jumper, Quando spoke candidly about the backlash and hate he's been subjected to since King Von's death. His words were blunt and unapologetic, as he stated, "I don't give a **K about them because they never been my fans from the get-go." But it was what he said next that left Von's supporters enraged. He added, "When God calls your number, you gotta go, brother." While Quando wasn't the one to instigate the beef, comments like this have undoubtedly poured fuel on the fire, especially for Von's fans, many of whom are tied to gang culture. Lil Durk, on the other hand, has always maintained that he's not involved in any gang activity. However, his close relationship with Von tells a different story. The two were known for their alleged involvement in numerous criminal activities over the years. Their bond wasn't just musical, it was deeply rooted in their shared pasts and circumstances. After King Von's tragic death, Lil Durk expressed his grief in a heartfelt Instagram post. Alongside a photo of Von, he wrote, "My twin gone. I love you, baby bro." The message made it clear just how close the two had been. Durk had taken Von under his wing from the very start, signing him to his OTF record label and essentially launching his career. Their bond was so strong that fans and industry insiders often speculated whether the two were actually related. From the way they moved together, both musically and personally, it was clear their connection ran deeper than most artist-label relationships. However, their partnership wasn't without its darker side. Over the years, both Von and Durk found themselves embroiled in various legal troubles. Their friendship often blurred the lines between business and street loyalty, leading many to wonder just how far they were willing to go for one another. Lil Durk and King Von were more than just rising stars in the Chicago drill scene. They were a force to be reckoned with. Their partnership wasn't just built on music, it was deeply rooted in their shared experiences and reputations. Although they never officially collaborated on a full project, their names were often mentioned in the same breath, becoming synonymous with the gritty authenticity of Chicago's streets. At just over 30 years old, Lil Durk has defied the odds stacked against many in his world. In a scene where making it past your 20s is considered an achievement, he's become something of a veteran. His longevity is rare, as many others have either met tragic ends or found themselves locked away. But even as he's cemented his place in music history, his past seems to be catching up with him. Both Durk and Von became infamous not only for their music, but also for their alleged roles in criminal activity. Their lyrics, often vivid and raw, painted a picture of life on the streets, but critics argue that it glamorized a dangerous lifestyle and set a negative example for Chicago's youth. Von's own criminal history was well documented. He was incarcerated at a young age for his involvement in multiple shootings. However, after his release, Durk stepped in, becoming a mentor and providing him with a path towards stardom. Despite Durk's efforts to steer Von towards success, their names were tied to an alleged crime that occurred just months before Von's untimely death. On February 5th, 2019, a man named Alexander Witherspoon was shot during a robbery outside the Varsity, a well-known restaurant in Atlanta. Witherspoon's Jeep and $30,000 in cash were reportedly stolen during the incident. Prosecutors alleged that both Lil Durk and King Von were involved, leading to their arrests shortly after. The case became a major talking point, with prosecutors presenting evidence to suggest that Durk and Vaughn orchestrated the attack. For fans, this revelation painted a complicated picture of two artists who were celebrated for their talent yet dogged by their pasts. For Durk, in particular, the incident is a stark reminder that no matter how far he's come, the streets of Chicago and his ties to them are never far behind. Witherspoon managed to survive the attack, but the ordeal left him with a gunshot wound to his leg, a constant reminder of the violence that unfolded that night. During court proceedings, surveillance footage allegedly showed both King Von and Lil Durk at the crime scene. However, the defense lawyer argued that the video never captured either of them actually pulling the trigger. Despite the uncertainty around the direct involvement, the case made waves nationwide, partly because it involved two of Chicago's most prominent rappers. The situation took on an even more serious tone when fears grew that the gang rivalries that plagued Chicago were spilling into Atlanta. The case gained so much attention that a Chicago police captain even flew to Atlanta to be part of the proceedings. This elevated the case to a national stage, further complicating the narrative surrounding both Vaughn and Durk. As the legal drama unfolded, both Vaughn and Durk were denied bail and hit with a slew of charges, including aggravated assault, attempted murder, and street gang activity. The shooting took place in February 2019, but a warrant for Durk's arrest wasn't issued until May of that year. Shortly after, he turned himself in, showing some level of willingness to confront the allegations head-on. Tragically, Vaughn never lived to see the case reach its conclusion. He was killed before a verdict could be delivered. However, Durk would later go on to be cleared of all charges, though the shadow of the incident still lingers. And just when it seemed like things might settle, another controversy erupted, this time involving a name that still sparks heated debates in Chicago's drill music scene, FBG Duck. FBG Duck's murder became one of the most high-profile cases tied to Chicago's gang violence. The rapper was gunned down on the Gold Coast, one of Chicago's most upscale neighborhoods, as he waited outside a Dolce & Gabbana store in August 2020. His death sent shockwaves through the city, not just because of the brazen nature of the attack, but because of who was implicated. Just weeks before Lil Durk's latest arrest, FBG Duck's mother filed a lawsuit claiming that both Durk and Vaughn had a hand in her son's killing. The lawsuit alleged that the attack had been planned while Vaughn was still alive and carried out by individuals connected to them. Duck was pronounced dead on the scene, and his girlfriend, along with one of his friends, was also injured in the attack. The lawsuit doesn't just target Lil Durk and King Von, it goes deeper, implicating their estates, businesses, and even their connections. It names two security firms and multiple associates of the gang known as O Block, which both Durk and Vaughn were heavily tied to. At the center of this legal battle lies a long-standing and deadly rivalry between Chicago gangs. The Gangster Disciples, represented by Tookerville, FBG Duck's crew, and the Black Disciples, which O Block belongs to. The feud between the Gangster Disciples and the Black Disciples has spanned decades. However, it took a particularly dark turn with the rise of Vaughn and FBG Duck, both of whom turned their gang rivalries into public spectacles by releasing diss tracks aimed at one another. These tracks added fuel to the fire and escalated tensions between the two groups, resulting in real-world violence. The lawsuit alleges that although Vaughn was killed before FBG Duck, he had already put a bounty on Duck's head, essentially orchestrating his death from beyond the grave. This chilling accusation mirrors the charges currently being brought against Lil Durk in connection with his own alleged retaliatory actions. It's a grim cycle of violence, where the boundaries between music and gang life blur in dangerous ways. Filed in Cook County Court, the lawsuit paints a damning picture of Lil Durk's record label, Only the Family, OTF. The complaint alleges that OTF is far more than a music label, it's a front for criminal activity. The suit claims the label, which included Vaughn, has had contracts with major players like Sony and other prominent record labels, some of which allegedly turned a blind eye to the criminal backgrounds of their artists. FBG Duck's family goes even further in their claims, stating that King Von had a vendetta against Duck. According to the lawsuit, Von's entire persona and music career revolved around promoting violence. They argue that Von built a brand of reality rap based on real-life acts of violence, particularly targeting FBG Duck, and used these acts to solidify his image as an artist. The lawsuit goes a step further, accusing Lil Durk and his associates of leveraging Chicago's violence to boost their record sales and public image. It states they understood that reality rap, violence, controversy, beefs, and notoriety were good for driving increased record sales, streams, and views, for building a brand, and profiting from a violent image. This claim paints a grim picture of an industry where profit is allegedly tied to perpetuating chaos and danger. For Lil Durk, a Chicago rap icon, this might mark the unraveling of a past that has long been both celebrated and scrutinized. His arrest has brought a flood of revelations about his history, with a focus on how his environment shaped him into the person he is today. At 32 years old, Durk is a veteran of the rap game, having started his career in his early 20s. But his rise wasn't without struggles. His life was full of challenges long before the fame and accolades. Durk's early years were far from easy. His father was sent to prison when he was just a child, sentenced to life in connection with a drug organization. This left Durk's mother, a nurse, to take on the burden of raising him and his siblings alone. Without a father figure and minimal supervision, young Durk found himself drawn to the streets of Chicago, where survival often depended on adapting to a harsh and unforgiving reality. As a product of his environment, Durk quickly became familiar with the tools of the streets, particularly guns. In 2013, this affinity led to his first high-profile arrest for gun possession. Police found not one but two fully loaded firearms in his possession. He served 6 months in jail for the offense, an experience that left a lasting mark on him. Durk later admitted how much he hated being behind bars and vowed to never return to jail again. However, that promise has been broken more than once. Over the years, his involvement in criminal activity has remained a recurring theme in both his personal life and his music. His songs often reflect the challenges of his upbringing and the realities of gang life in Chicago, but they also carry the weight of an artist who has consistently walked a fine line between entertainment and a dangerous reality. Lil Durk's journey through life hasn't been an easy ride, and it became even more complicated in 2013 after his arrest for gun possession. Adding to the turmoil, his son was born while he was in jail. Missing the birth of his first child was a painful moment, one that likely left a deep scar on Durk. He's also faced countless losses over the years, losing many of his closest friends to the harsh realities of street life. In an older interview, Durk opened up about what it was like to lose so many people close to him. He shared his heartbreak over losing his friend Muskie, who was killed shortly after they both signed record deals. Muskie's death was just the beginning of a devastating pattern. More friends fell victim to the violence, including his manager, who was tragically killed. Despite these losses, Durk managed to stay focused on his music and avoided trouble for a while. That all changed in 2019 when he found himself back in the crosshairs of the law. This time, he was accused of being involved in a shooting in Atlanta with King Von. The accusations included charges of aggravated assault and attempted murder. Following the issuance of an arrest warrant, Durk made the bold decision to turn himself in. He even channeled the experience into his music, releasing a song titled "Turn Myself In," which detailed his thoughts and emotions during that period. After spending some time behind bars, he was released on a $250,000 bail, but the challenges didn't stop there. Shortly after, Durk was dealt another blow when his close friend Von was tragically killed. As if that wasn't enough, in 2021, he lost his biological brother, who was also gunned down in another senseless act of violence. These consecutive losses have undoubtedly shaped his outlook on life and his career. What makes his story even more perplexing is how Durk was seemingly ready to leave his criminal past behind. In the weeks leading up to his recent arrest, Durk announced on Twitter that his criminal record was being wiped clean. He told his fans he was starting a new chapter, one that didn't involve crime or trouble. His fans celebrated this as a moment of redemption for the Chicago rapper, whose life has been defined by struggle and resilience. Yet, life had other plans. Just as he was preparing to turn over a new leaf, his past caught up to him. Lil Durk's excitement about his clean slate was evident in his heartfelt announcement. He shared his gratitude, writing, "Everybody should get second chances at life. It's about what you do with it. Alhamdulillah, my background wiped and clean of all cases. I ain't a felon anymore." Durk also took the opportunity to thank those who supported him, saying, "Who would have thought? I want to thank everyone who helped push my vision forward. Thank you from the bottom of my heart." In June, he even told a paparazzo in Malibu that he was ready to embrace a new path and leave his criminal past behind. He opened up about his experiences with gang violences and substance abuse, admitting to using drugs like codeine and Xanax in the past. From his words, it sounded like Durk was genuinely committed to changing his life and turning to religion for guidance. But as we know, the past doesn't always stay buried. Despite his intentions to reform, his skeletons are re-emerging, and they're casting a long shadow over his fresh start. While his statement gave hope that he had moved on, the allegations against him suggest otherwise. If the claims that he put a bounty on Quando Rondo are true, it raises the question: was his commitment to a new life authentic, or was it just a temporary front? It's possible that the alleged actions occurred before he decided to turn over a new leaf. But regardless of the timing, Durk will now have to face the consequences of his past. With the shooting he's accused of taking place in California, it's uncertain whether he'll remain in Broward County Jail or be transferred to another facility. As this case unfolds, there's still much to learn about the charges against him and how his story will play out. Whether Durk's attempt at redemption was genuine or not, it's clear that his journey is far from over. What do you think about Lil Durk's recent troubles? Was he truly trying to change, or do you think he's still caught up in his old ways? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and check out the next video for more wild stories from the rap world.